Hello, welcome to the Application Process Training. This training is presented by the Oregon Department of Education Child Nutrition Programs, also known as ODE-CNP. This training will provide an overview of the new sponsor application process and review the general application steps. The objective of this training is to ensure new sponsors understand the application process. How does your organization become a CACFP sponsor? There are 7 steps in the application process. The following slides outline each step in the CACFP application process. There are 7 steps in total. This process is intended to both prepare applicants to be sponsors and enables ODE-CNP to assess the capability of the applicant to be a successful sponsor of the CACFP. To participate in the CACFP, an applicant must complete the application process and be approved by ODE-CNP before they are considered a sponsor. Applicants may be denied at any portion of the process if ODE-CNP finds that the organization does not have the financial viability, organizational capability, or internal controls for accountability to successfully operate the CACFP. The process will include an ODE-CNP review of forms and documentation submitted by the organization in order to determine if the sponsor is capable of operating the CACFP. Once approved, the new sponsor will sign a state agency sponsor agreement and submit all additional required information. This section provides an overview of the necessary steps for sponsoring organizations to complete the initial application. The application process can take between 3 to 6 months or longer, and the speed of that process is dependent on how quickly items are turned around by the applicant. The first step of the application process is to determine an applicant organization's eligibility to become a CACFP sponsor. Applicants should first use the CACFP Center Eligibility Quick Check to determine if their organization may be eligible to sponsor the CACFP. If you think that your organization may be eligible based on the Quick Check, complete the CACFP Eligibility Assessment. If the assessment determines that the potential applicant may be qualified for participation, the potential applicant will be contacted to provide information to assess the organization's financial viability. Financial viability means that the organization would be able to sustain the same level of service in the event the CACFP funds were interrupted. In this step, you will be asked via email to answer questions ODE-CNP may have, if applicable, submit a profit and loss and balance sheet, as well as a Form 990 for nonprofits, and complete introductory trainings. These financial documents and information will be reviewed by ODE-CNP in order to determine if you are eligible to proceed with the CACFP application process. Once an organization is determined to be eligible to apply for CACFP, they will be contacted by ODE-CNP to move on to the second step of the application process. The second step in the application process is to complete required CACFP trainings and procedure policy templates. You will also be introduced to your assigned ODE-CNP specialist in this step, who will provide TA throughout the application process. Federal regulations require ODE-CNP to provide trainings to CACFP sponsors. ODE-CNP provides training for new sponsors and new staff online, which is available to be accessed 24/7 via the ODE-CNP CACFP training webpage. Some trainings may not be applicable to your program. For example, if you're a nonprofit organization and only have nonprofit sites, it's not necessary for your organization to complete for-profit training. A detailed list will be given to applicants with which trainings your organization will be required to complete based on your organizations and program offered. Sponsors of the CACFP are required to have procedures on how they implement the CACFP as well. In Step 2, applicants are given procedure templates on key areas of the CACFP to document how their organization will implement the CACFP. These can be used to start a CACFP procedure handbook specific to their organization. Technical assistance will be provided by ODE staff members on how to strengthen procedures throughout the application process. Step 3A of the application process is where you will submit required new sponsor forms, those that will set up your CNP Web account and access. CNP Web is the system that ODE CNP uses to store and submit necessary sponsor information. In Step 3A, the new sponsor information form, user authorization forms, and add site forms, you will provide ODE CNP necessary information on your organization, staff, and sites via these forms. Step 3B of the CACFP application process is where applicants will provide further information to ODE CNP about their organization and how they will implement the CACFP. All required application forms must be completed and submitted for the application to be reviewed by ODE CNP. As stated earlier, application forms are both offline and online. The online forms, which are part of CNP Web in the Applications tab, include a sponsor information sheet, management plan, and information sheets for each site. The offline forms are available as a download from CNP Web in the Packet tab. Those with CNP Web access will need to log into CNP Web and download, complete, and submit the required forms per the application instructions. ODE CNP staff will hold a call with applicants to detail all documents that must be submitted as part of this step. ODE CNP will give a due date for these items and review them. If the documents meet all requirements and deadlines, the application will move on to the next step in the application process. Step 3C of the CACFP application process is where applicants will submit additional financial documents, including a budget, financial documents, and financial management procedure workbook to complete verification of financial viability. ODE CNP staff will hold a call with applicants to detail all documents that must be submitted as part of this step. ODE CNP will give a due date for these items and review them. If the documents meet all requirements and deadlines, the application will move on to the next step of the application process. Step 4 has two parts, 4A and 4B, which are broadly referred to as application evaluation. This is where your assigned ODE CNP specialist and the community team manager will conduct necessary checks on the application before it moves on to a pre-approval visit. Applicants will be notified via email when this step is complete. Step 5 is the pre-approval visit. An applicant cannot move on to Step 5 until all application materials have been reviewed by a child nutrition specialist and any or all corrections have been made to the application materials. Your assigned specialist from ODE CNP will make an appointment, typically on-site, to review the applicant's operation and implementation of the CACFP prior to final approval. Applicants must implement all meal and record-keeping requirements as described in the trainings, completed procedure templates, and the management plan prior to the pre-approval review. If requirements are not implemented, approval of the application may be potentially denied. It is during the pre-approval visit the applicant demonstrates that they are accountable and capable of operating the CACFP. Step 6 is where ODE CNP conducts a final review of application materials and requests any necessary corrections or changes before approval. Step 7 has 4 parts, 7A through 7D, and is where ODE CNP finalizes and approves an applicant to become a sponsor. Little work is needed by the applicant at this step, as ODE CNP largely completes the items in this stage. The applicant is notified when this step is complete, and they are approved as a sponsor. After an application is completed, sponsors can anticipate receiving a survey on their experience and both a TA and financial viability visit. Additionally, as a sponsor, you will have an ongoing relationship with ODE CNP and your assigned specialist. Now for a knowledge check. How many steps are there in the CACFP application process? There are 7 steps in the CACFP application process. To review, there are 7 steps in total to the CACFP application process. This process is intended to ensure applicants to the CACFP will become successful sponsors of the program. ODE CNP is here to support you throughout the process and ensure it prepares you to be successful on the program. ODE supports equity and excellence for every learner. Education equity is the equitable implementation of policy, practices, procedures, and legislation that translates into resource allocation, education rigor, and opportunities for historically and currently marginalized youth, students, and families, including civil rights protected classes. This means the restructuring and dismantling of systems and institutions that create the dichotomy of beneficiaries and the oppressed and marginalized. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Thank you for taking this training.